All right, hello and welcome to the second episode of the Xtreme Insider podcast. Technically, the second episode. The first one was not when it was named Xtreme Insider. And this time, I'm joined with one of the hosts of the Extreme Football podcast, J Dash. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be.
All right, so we're just going to be talking about some topics here about the XFL, and since it's been so long since I've been on this podcast. We're just going to do a brief overview of what we know so far about the XFL, make some predictions, and answer some questions that we got on Twitter. And how about we just get right into it? So we're just going to go over a brief summary of what we know about so far in the XFL. So obviously the 8 cities. There's Seattle, Dallas, Houston, LA. Already lost track. So Seattle, Dallas, Houston, LA, Tampa Bay, New York. What am I missing here? Always miss 2 cities.
Washington.
Oh yeah, Washington, and there's another one.
Houston.
No, I said St. Louis. Of course, in my opinion, the most important one of all of them, specifically for this league. So we know that. We know about the certain rules that they're testing out, the tiered point, extra point system, the shorter play clock. And just a quick question of all the tested rules. Which one do you like the most?
The one that I like the most is something that me and my co-host on my show discussed big time this week. It's, keeping the kicking game alive, like the actual kicking game at the start of the game, where the NFL is completely getting rid of it. And the AAF has completely said we're not doing it. It gets rid of the kickoff returns. Yes, it's going to be different and unique, but we do have a kickoff, and that's a part of football. You have to have the kickoff, in my opinion. The rule that I least dislike, in my opinion, is the offensive line 2-point stance rule. I played offensive line in high school, and yes, if you're in a 2-point stance, you're good for pass protect, but if you're a 2-point stance at all times, you are exposing your lower body to a defensive lineman. So I don't like that rule. It could be changed. It's going to be changed. But right now, I love the new kickoff rule because you're keeping the kickoffs in the game.
Yeah, just like Oliver Luck said, he said he wants to keep the foot in football. Now, originally, I was against this because I used to be just against kickoffs in general. They were just boring to me. Now I kind of realize it's kind of warmed up to me that they're just keeping the kickoffs, because when you really think about it, what's the better way to start the game? A kickoff, like an actual play, or just setting the ball on the 20-yard line?
An actual play?
Yeah, like an actual play, like a kickoff, like that. It honestly is just more exciting to do that, so you have to earn your field position.
And if you look at what the other league is doing, they're putting the ball at the 25. Okay. So why? You already have a team that has to go 75 yards. So basically, the defensive team, even though they're on defense, already has the advantage of the field position. At least on the kickoffs, they can change. And plus, in my opinion, with the kickoffs, you have a better chance of higher scoring games than you do with the ball on the 25-yard line to start the game. So,
yeah, I really like the tiered extra point system. Actually, I think it's a really creative idea. I think it's you start at the 2, you get 1 point. At the 5-yard line, you get 2 points. I think it's the 15, you get 3 points. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, and that's also an homage to the original XFL.
Yeah, I know. I really like that rule. It just adds a lot more excitement rather than just getting the extra 1 point. And plus, it also would benefit it because if a team's down by, let's say, 2, they can either go for it on the 5, have an easier way tying up, or they can go for it and go for 3 points there, which is basically like getting a field goal, but a lot harder, honestly.
And you won't see a lot of teams do that earlier in the game. You may see them at the end of the game.
Yeah,
but
that would make it a lot more exciting at the end of the game as well.
Yes. Unless you have like quarterbacks like Colin Kaepernick that can run for 15 yards or something like that. Yeah. So, did I just go into another subject that we're not supposed to get into?
That's okay. I was actually just going to use that to jump into the next thing. It's about predictions about players and coaches. So, just what are some players and coaches you'd like to see in the XFL? And also, if you're to pick any non NFL like head coach, like offensive coordinators are you can have offensive coordinators and stuff like that. But any NFL head coach, not NFL head coach, or which one of those would you like to have in the XFL? So like offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, whatever, former players even.
Basically, if you watch the game of football over the years, especially from college all the way to the NFL, head coaches that usually don't last long, they get shipped away and they leave, and the up-and-coming or young stud offensive coordinator, D coordinator takes over. For the XFL, I think they might have to have variety of up-and-comers and guys who have had sustainable post XFL or post NFL careers, like John Fox. Compare that to like a Hugh Freeze in college. You want a mixture. You don't want to do what the AAF is doing right now. They're going after just straight old has-been head coaches in the NFL and college level. That's kind of calling Steve Spurrier that. I know that may be a shot out at Steve Spurrier, but he last coached football in 2005, so that's 13 years ago. So for the XFL, in my opinion, to adapt a new culture and a new league, they have to, in my opinion, be selective on individuals, find and let these actual team organizations find their coaches, and not having the XFL select each coach for each position. And I like to see young guys, like a Mike Riley in Oklahoma. Yeah, he won't leave Oklahoma. He has it set there. But an up-and-comer offensive coordinator, maybe from like a small school, from UAB or or FAU, for instance, like the crazy man down South Florida, Lane Kiffin, will be perfect in the XFL. He just looks like he can be an XFL coach by just his attitude. But yeah. Variety. I don't want to have like what the AAF is doing, where you just straight old NFL coaches. Have some variety.
Yeah, the AAF seems to be going for a lot of older vets and stuff, and people that have former careers, and just older people in general. One person I forgot. There was a podcast that suggested this. I think it was This Is the XFL show. Not really sure. They suggested a interesting candidate for a coach in the XFL, Joe Lombardi, grandson of Vince Lombardi, who's the current quarterback coach of the New Orleans Saints. You think he would be able to be convinced to come to the XFL for a head coaching job?
Let's say. First off, Lombardi, as you know, he is a quarterbacks coach for Peyton. I almost said Peyton Manning. No, he's Drew Brees. Actually, no, because I really do believe, because of what Drew Brees has done, and you have Gary Payton, I think is the coach.
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton. He's coming down to his end of his career, so I won't be surprised. He's a young up-and-comer guy, and he has, he's the grandson of the legend, the guy that the dang trophy's named after. It's a long shot, but if I was him, I would stay with the Saints because you haven't made. Because you have a resume of coaching quarterbacks or quarterback in Drew Brees, and that's going to be a major selling point for your resume to get another position in the NFL. Yes, it'd be nice for the XFL to go after somebody with that caliber, but that name, yes, even though it's a quarterback coach, he has a resume of coaching Drew Brees, and an NFL team will like that more than anything else.
Yeah, it would certainly be a big name for the XFL to grab if they could ever get him. I was thinking about it. This is not going to happen, but I was thinking, how interesting would it be if Peyton Manning ever got a head coaching job? Because when he was a quarterback, he was basically the coach. There was no coaching Peyton Manning. He was basically a player coach there. He would call the plays. He was basically the offensive coordinator there. So I think that would be very interesting, although it's never going to happen.
Peyton Manning's always been like they call him the admiral or the general on the field. Um, he wants to be in TV. He
Yeah.
wants to be an analyst. He wants to be on CBS. He's been openly known to do that. Being a coach, probably it'd be interesting. But if he's going to be coaching, most likely it may be in the college level at his alma mater in Tennessee. Now the XFL may be intriguing to see if he does. But right now, I think he's most likely want to stay in the analyst role as of now. And besides, he only has to go sing like 3 hums and he gets paid a couple $1 million with Nationwide.
Yeah.
But like, if we were talking about like coaches and people who that you might see become coaches in the NFL from like former players, honestly, you can go to like Brian Urlacher, for instance. Clay Matthews has shown just, I know he's still playing right now in the NFL. He's showing some actions toward the NFL that you see a lot of players right now are rejecting. They don't know what to do in the NFL now. Like guys like Rex Ryan, perfect candidate for the XFL. But it's going to be pretty hard to get NFL legends like Peyton Manning to get away from the NFL type of football as of now. Unless Vince McMahon can pull a lot of strings.
Yeah. Rex Ryan would be very interesting to have a head coach there. He was just a very interesting character in general, especially as someone that lives around the area that has a team that he coached for in Buffalo. Yeah, he was an interesting character. You'd see him all around. So now as for players, who's a former or even current NFL player you'd like to see that could likely end up in the XFL?
This may be a shout out to a lot of people out there, especially in the Jacksonville region, but yo boy Blake Bortles will be in the XFL.
That's
and
right.
That's not a stat to what's that Twitter account, Blake Bortles stat or something like that. Yeah, so I know it's a shout out, but I think Blake Bortles has a higher chance of being in the XFL than Tim Tebow. But guaranteed locks, you can scratch out Colin Kaepernick. I think he will be in the XFL. Johnny Manziel, not so much.
Yeah.
Other quarterbacks, you like Colt McCoy, maybe? Yeah.
I have my list right here. I've got honestly, Josh McCown would be a very interesting quarterback for the XFL. I know he's getting up there in years. I predicted he's probably going to retire within the next 2 years from the NFL. You think he'd ever give the XFL a shot?
Yeah, possibly. And why not? He's always been a quality backup, and he's always come in on teams that their seasons were over, and he managed to have some good results. For instance, look what he did in Chicago and what he did in Tampa Bay for a couple of years. He's not a bad quarterback, and he can thrive in the XFL. You can compare him to guys like Brock Osweiler and crap, that's another guy. He's a former Bronco.
Paxton Lynch? Or
Paxton Lynch,
yeah,
Brock Osweiler, Trevor Siemian, those type of guys. And you don't know. And Colt McCoy is another guy. Mark Sanchez is another guy. Matt Schaub is another guy. People are thinking that these top prospect quarterbacks are going to come to the XFL because it's new. If they're not going to the AAF, it's going to be difficult for them to come to the XFL. And yes, the XFL has more of a reputation than the AAF as of this moment because it's had a past. But with the rumor that you see Tim Tebow has been official, don't buy that. He has a nice gig in baseball and ESPN. But right now, I could say guys like Tyrod Taylor, Colt McCoy.
That's an interesting one.
Brock Osweiler. I know you laughed when I said Blake Bortles, but I really do think so.
No, I really think so too. I put him on my list. I think he's at number 5 or I put him at number 6. He would be a huge name to put in. I've always liked Blake Bortles actually. I remember watching him getting drafted. I actually have liked him since college, and it's just kind of sad how he's not been turning out recently.
That's just bad. He's just gone to his bad mechanics, and it's he has times where he looks like he could be a legit top 15 quarterback in the NFL, and there's times you look at him and go, "How in the heck are you even on an NFL roster?" But
yeah, I put Tebow at number 5 and Bortles at number 6. It's a toss up between the two, honestly. I there's a lot going against Tebow going to the XFL because obviously he's got that job in baseball for the Mets minor league system, and he's got that ESPN job. Man, he was such a fun player to watch in the fourth quarter. Not the first 3 quarters of the game, but in the fourth quarter he was very fun to watch.
yes,
yeah, I remember that big hype about him. And then I finally watched his actual games and realized this guy probably shouldn't have been starting for the first 3 quarters. He'd go.
Tebow is one overtime pass against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC wildcard game away from being a nobody in the NFL.
Oh yeah, if that had never happened, I seriously doubt we'd be even talking about him right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think a really good, interesting, and realistic scenario for a quarterback ending up in the XFL is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why not?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I actually seriously think this is a good idea. Because, first of all, I don't think he's going to be getting the start over Winston anytime soon because, look, when this guy is good, he is really good. But when he is bad, he is abysmal. He's shown this with every team he's been on, even in Harvard. Yeah, in college, he I think his first start I think it was actually I'm talking about the Rams, but he was pretty good in Harvard, obviously since he was drafted from Harvard. But his first start for the Rams was because I forgot who it was. Someone got hurt. He came in, he just lit it up. Next game he was terrible. This has been the cycle for every team he's been on. I'd say his longest stretch of being good was probably in either Buffalo or I'd say just this past year. Had about 3 games.
He had a couple of games in New York.
Yeah, he was decent in New York, and then he had that 6-pick game.
That's just an illusion.
It's just an illusion. Who wouldn't like to see Fitzmagic in the XFL though?
People in Tampa Bay, maybe.
Hey, maybe he could sign with the Tampa Bay team.
Yeah. You have Colt McCoy go to Washington. You
How
may
fun would
have
that be?
Tyrod Taylor or Geno Smith in New York. You might have Sam Bradford back in St. Louis. You might have Bryce Petty in Dallas.
I forgot about
Sam
Sam
Bradford.
Bradford.
You might have Johnny Manziel in Houston and Colin Kaepernick in L.A. And Seattle will be like E.J. Manuel or something like that.
EJ Manuel.
And you wonder how I just named it on the top of my head. Well, I do have a quarterback generator program, and I've been doing random drafts, and those have been basically the same picks over for the last couple of times. So it's because of just quarterbacks that I think will be in the XFL. So
yeah, I think the XFL will really go after some big names. I think, and they're also going to give some young guys a chance. Speaking of 6-pick games, we've also got one guy I think should go into the XFL, Nathan Peterman. Man, what a guy.
Well, you can always have second chances. And Nathan Peterman, is a bad quarterback in the NFL, but he can also be a great quarterback in the Arena League or the Indoor Football League or Canada. The NFL is a completely different beast in football. And lesser football or downgraded football to like the XFL may be just a league where he can thrive, where he can learn the speed of the game to eventually get the call-up. Nathan Peterman, and honestly, screams to me Tommy Maddox. When Tommy Maddox was drafted in the NFL, he went out there and, excuse my language, but shit at bricks. And wasn't never the same. Then he went to the XFL, went to LA, had a great year in LA, then goes to Pittsburgh and leads Pittsburgh to the playoffs back-to-back seasons. So Nathan Peterman, is younger right now than what Tommy Maddox was at the time. And plus, Tommy Maddox was a top 5 pick in the NFL when he was out of college. Nathan Peterman was, I think
he was a 5th round pick.
5th or 6th round pick. So, yeah, we know about 6th-round picks in the history of quarterbacks. Yeah, Nathan Peterman is not the GOAT from New England. So Nathan Peterman screams that type of quarterback where he may go down to a lesser league like the XFL, play 1 or 2 seasons, and you may see him back on the NFL roster in 2 or 3 years. So you don't want to say that, yeah, he had a hard time, bracing the NFL. Yeah, not a lot of quarterbacks survive in Buffalo. Tyrod Taylor, E.J. Manuel, even, was it Donaldson? No? Yeah, it's Donaldson. No, it's
what year?
No, this year.
This year? Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen.
I'd say Josh Allen's pretty good, honestly. He's got just kind of a rabbit trail here, but I think he's got the second highest quarterback rating of the 5 rookies. I think Baker has the best. I know Rosen has the worst. Darnold has the second worst, and then Lamar, and then Allen, then Baker.
Yeah.
Allen's been playing pretty well, I'd say, especially his rushing ability is pretty good. Although I don't think he should continue to play like that, because when he's in his 30s, he's going to die. He can't be doing all that. Just look at what happened to Aaron Rodgers. He got injured way too much just playing like that.
The problem with Aaron Rodgers is that he's always getting tackled by guys his back. If you see Cleo Mack this past weekend, he tackled Aaron Rodgers with his back. So
yeah.
Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a damn good quarterback. He's so good that the Chicago, really, the Green Bay Packers team around him is that bad. Because Rodgers, if he, let's say, was in LA right now, the Rams or the Chargers, they would be 12-2 or 13-1 right now. He's that good of a quarterback. Or he could be in Cleveland. Well, I don't think. Baker Mayfield's doing a hell of a job in Cleveland. For a bad organization, that is. But, yeah.
Oakland, I'd say, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. So back to Nathan Peterman. Yeah, obviously he had that infamous 5-pick game against the Chargers. I will say that I was willing to give him a second chance after that one, because he was thrown to the wolves basically after Tyrod Taylor had an absolutely abysmal performance the game before. I understand why they benched Tyrod. It's just in hindsight, may not have been a great idea. I think it really did speak to Tyrod, though. He at least stepped it up somewhat after that game. But Peterman, of course, then had I don't think you were paying attention to him during the off season, but I definitely was, because obviously you knew coming in he was going to be the starting quarterback. Because man, he looked great in the off season. I actually got to go to a training camp to see Peterman there. Man, he was putting up a very amazing throws. By far the best out of Allen, McCarron, and Peterman. Man, he was great. And then the preseason, he was even better. So obviously, going into week 1, you knew this guy was going to be the starter. I was willing to give him a second chance. He was terrible. They had to put in Allen within the second half. And then I was willing to give him one more chance until that Houston game where he threw that game-losing pick 6.
And from what it sounds like, sir, you are a Bills Mafia fan. Am I correct?
Now I have my NFL team. A lot of people are going to hate me for it, but I basically only follow the Bills because they're my local team.
Okay.
I am actually a New England Patriots fan. I just followed the Bills because they're my local team, basically.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, a lot of people find that weird that I like 2 teams in the same division. It's kind of like that with all sports. In hockey, I like the Buffalo Sabres and the Detroit Red Wings, both in the same division.
That's interesting, but
yeah, I have reasons for stuff like that. I think so. Yeah, Peterman has also, in college, he was not bad. I think he had a 400-yard game against Louisville, and then he even defeated number 3 Clemson with Pitt, I believe, right?
Yeah, but he did have James Conner as a running back.
That is true. It was still a fun team to watch, and he at least showed from the preseason and the offseason that he does know how to play football, especially since the preseason it's against lesser talent, so that's kind of a good preview about how he'd play in the XFL possibly.
Probably.
And so I think, all right, so another guy here is RG3, currently on the Baltimore Ravens. Probably not going to see another start for quite a while, unless Lamar gets hurt and Flacco gets hurt again. RG3, man, this looking back, this guy was really fun to watch in his first few years, even and in college. I think he'd be perfect for the XFL as long as he could stay healthy. If he could stay healthy, then I think he'd do great in the XFL. Doesn't have a criminal past, I don't believe, so I think he'd be fun to watch.
RG3, in my opinion, like another quarterback in the Washington area, Colt McCoy, will be. One thing about Washington fans, and one thing I talked with my co-host Carlos, is that the Washington fans embraced RG3 and Colt McCoy when they were there in their prime. And if the XFL decides to, keep a regional type of, recruitment of players, RG3 in Washington will be embraced again. It'd be a chance for RG3 to close a chapter or finish a chapter in his career. He was drafted by the Redskins. He is in DC, and it'll be a great way for him to, tip his cap to an organization, the city that he currently lives in. And same with Colt McCoy as well. RG3, yeah, people forget that RG3 was dominant. You're talking about this is the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback came out of Baylor. You don't win Heisman's out of Baylor. And you go into the NFL and you lead a bad Washington Redskin team to the playoffs one year. Then the next year you lead them all the way to the playoffs again, and you blow your ACL in halftime, and not halftime, a play before halftime. Then you go out there and try and finish the game, and you almost win the game. Yes, RG3 hasn't been the same since, but you have to look at what the competitor that he is, and he is, in my opinion, a player that could be in the XFL that can thrive for 2 to 3 years. It could be that veteran leader, and you know that he's not going to go to the NFL because he's spent so many years in the NFL and couldn't get things going. But it'd be also a great way for him if he stays in the Washington City area. It'd be part of the XFL in Washington, and that would be a great story, and it's something that will attract fans to get tickets, and it would be something where either Fox or NBC, whoever wants to cover the XFL, can have a good storyline about the up and coming, the revenge tour or the challenges that RG3 went through. And plus, I remember when RG3 was in Baylor, the guy was a stud. That guy made plays. You're like, man, how in the heck can he do that? Go to find out that every quarterback since then has won Heisman, had that type of mobility. So he was a transition quarterback to what we see now today with all the Heisman Trophy winners from Manziel, Mainfield, to Murray, to Jameis, to what's the other quarterbacks that won it? And RG3,
yeah.
Mobile quarterbacks that made plays with their feet that had a rocket arm. So he was the start of the transition of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, he was obviously a very influential quarterback and a very important quarterback to history, to college and stuff like that. All right, hold on. So I'm going to pause this real quick. I have to let my dogs out. So all right, well that's done. That was fun. So yeah, back to RG3. I wouldn't expect the actual college version of him. He's expressed his thoughts that he wants to pass more and run less. He even said that while he was on the Redskins. I believe Shanahan, I think it was. I can't forget if it was Shanahan or was it Jay Gruden that told me he had to keep running.
Jay Gruden?
I can't remember if it was Gruden or if it was.
Yeah, I think it was Shanahan.
Yeah, I believe it was Shanahan. Yeah, I figured. So I wouldn't expect like the actual Baylor version of RG3. I expect more of a pass first version of RG3, but he would run occasionally. I think he definitely could succeed in the XFL. Definitely because he was pretty good in the preseason as well. Had some good throws. I believe he definitely wants to throw a lot more. And with the XFL's promise of a safer game, I think he'd definitely be intrigued, along with the good pay he'd receive.
Yeah, I believe how the XFL is set up to be a safer league for quarterbacks or for any players that is. He'll be more relaxed in the pocket, knowing that no one's going to get a cheap shot on him. Based if you see what the NFL has done towards quarterbacks over the years.
And yeah, finally, at least the most important ones on my list have gone through so far. Finally, of course, we have to talk about him, Colin Kaepernick. He's probably going to be in the XFL. I would be kind of shocked to see him not join the XFL. I'd obviously like to see him play in the XFL. Of course, that whole kneeling thing happened, and of course, Vince McMahon at the press conference said there'd be no politics involved in the XFL. Do you think Colin will actually sign with the XFL here?
Yes, I do. Because the reason why is that Colin Kaepernick has shown extreme interest in playing football again, but he's also said no to the AAF. He wants to play in the NFL, but the NFL keeps blocking him out. So the reason why I see him play in the XFL is because if he wanted to go to Canada, he would already gone to Canada now, playing the CFL. And of course, yeah, Vince McMahon, as everyone knows, has had problems with co-workers in his past, and he knows when there's a good business deal. And having Colin Kaepernick play for the XFL teams, no matter which team gets him, will be just not a big shot in the drill in for the XFL, because he will actually play football. He'll get massive media coverage, and the people who have supported him on his political stance will come out in droves to support that. That's yes, you may piss off some fans that are against it, but also you may get appreciation from other fans that are getting pissed at the NFL because of not having Colin Kaepernick in it. So it could be a win-win scenario. And besides, Vince McMahon has always been a very good businessman, and if he wants to have a successful XFL this time around, I do believe that he needs to start making phone calls for Mr. Colin Kaepernick to be a part of the XFL in 2020.
Now, I'm against it, to him kneeling, and I'm sure Vince is too, but I'm definitely for seeing him play again. I'd obviously love to see. I'm more concerned about the football player than I am the person. I could honestly care less what he does, but I just like to see. I like to see entertaining football players, and I definitely like the fact that the XFL will be keeping politics out of it, because that's what drove a lot of people away from the NFL, and it's part of why they were losing a lot of ratings. Other than the fact that their scheduling a few years ago was just terrible, having the Bears play in primetime almost every week. But anyways, Kaepernick, I think, would be an interesting case. I don't know if he's been practicing a lot lately, because he definitely hasn't had any tryouts within the past 2 years. There have been a lot of teams considering it, but I don't think he's gotten a tryout yet. It'd be definitely interesting to see what he can do in the XFL if he signs, and he'd probably sign with the LA team, I would assume, if they go by regional.
Because he currently lives in LA.
Yeah. So if you go by a regional, he definitely sign with the LA team, which as of right now is my favorite team, mostly because the XFL sent me that T-shirt. That was cool. I think now we're going to get to the Twitter questions that we have, because we are half an hour in. So yeah. So the first one is from someone with a baseball emoji in their handle, but sports standings. They say, I actually like this question. Do you like the direction the new version of the league has taken in building up to their first season compared to the first one 17 years ago?
Do I?
or just he's asking both of us.
Uh, Actually, yes, I do like it because Vince McMahon is creating a league this time around that's focused on the game itself. All the not NFL, excuse me, all the WWE antics are out of the game, and you've seen this on Twitter and you've seen on social media from other sports leagues that are anti XFL. They still compare the old original XFL to the WWE/WWF's failure and influence into the original XFL. I like the approach because Vince is actually taking his time. He knows what happened during the first XFL. He knows what went wrong. He knows what went wrong, and he's got a very good guy in Oliver Luck. He's hired some great assistants. He's got knowledge from ex-NFL coaches and variety of news sources, organizations. So he's doing it the right way. And besides, the XFL in its original season was launched in 9.5 months, give or take. And it's going to be 2 years, and we're getting ready to get to enter the second year before the actual launch of the league. So the XFL this time around, under Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck, has a better approach than what it was in 2001.
Yeah, I think Vince has definitely realized that making your announcement of the league, maybe like a year before starting the league, may not be such a good idea. AAF. So I definitely like the approach that Vince is taking here. Definitely the hire of Oliver Luck is a great idea. I think he's definitely someone who can handle the being the commissioner of this league, and I like the hires he's gotten so far. For the Reimagination Committee, he's got Jim Caldwell, John Fox, Doug Flutie, etc. And he just hired Doug Whaley. I also the obviously the 17 years ago was it was far a different time, so obviously it was going to be their whole marketing strategy back then is that the NFL is getting too soft and we're going to be the hard-hitting alternative league. They're obviously not trying that right now because that would not fly in today's age. But I agree, though, the 2001 XFL was definitely WWE football, if you were to really put into simple terms. I like the way how they're going a more professional but more transparent strategy for the league. It's definitely helped a lot. I think it's one thing that the AAF is lacking. They're not as transparent with what's going on behind the scenes as the XFL is, because the XFL definitely they've shown videos of their testings and stuff like that. And as far as we know, I haven't seen any tests from the AAF yet. I don't know if that's because I'm not paying attention or they just haven't done any, but I haven't seen any like that. So in my eyes, the XFL is a lot more transparent than the AAF, which is why I think it'll be a lot more successful, other than the fact that it has 2 years instead of 1 year to assemble things.
Yes, and I agree with that. Because XFL House is starting this time around, it's 2 years and then the leagues happen. So the XFL gets to see what's happening over there in the other league and may have to tweak little things before 2020. Maybe trying to find players to sign after that other league folds, but we're far from that at this moment.
Yeah, I also think it's definitely beneficial because anything that the AAF fails at, the XFL can improve on. So like, say the whole not having any kickoffs, or actually, yeah, that they already have that one in place. But say that the XFL wasn't originally going to have any kickoffs. They see that the starting at the 20 is not very popular. Maybe they have to add in kickoffs now because that's what the fans want. I love how they're very fan-centric here to get the fans involved. And they're asking questions consistently from their Twitter account. And they've also definitely made a fan here. They sent me a gift box. I was randomly selected out of all their followers, they said. So they sent me a gift box, which is what you'd get if you it's the same thing you'd get if you went to the press conference for the city announcements. So I got a string bag, a pen, a pin, a t-shirt, and a hat. I believe that's what I got. And I like the way they're definitely a lot more fan centric. So definitely sending a few of those out will definitely get you a lot of fans. Maybe even people that were just casually following the league and interacting with them on Twitter. Winning a contest like that definitely, and getting a whole bunch of free stuff advertising the XFL definitely helps. Not to mention the people that win those, like say they wear the T-shirt, that's basically free advertising right there. So it gets the XFL name out, and a lot more, and some more people can potentially watch it.
It's all a part of the plan.
Oh yes, the master plan of Vince McMahon. Next question comes from Jake H. Which XFL team is most fitting for Tebow? Yeah, if I were to take a guess, I'd say Tampa Bay. If he does end up signing, I'd say Tampa Bay, or possibly New York, since he plays for the Mets, or the Mets minor league team, and since he spent some time on the Jets later in his career.
I say most likely it'll be either New York or Tampa. Those are two viable questions because Tampa is closer to where he lives, where his family is in Florida. Of course, he is a University of Florida grad. And of course, he works for the New York Mets, who are in New York, and the New York organizations there as well. So I think those would be the only two cities/teams he'll join if he comes to the XFL.
This next one is from LA native, and he said, when... Alright, this one I'm probably not going to be able to answer, but he says, when or how will team names, colors, logos be decided and announced? This guy must think I'm an actual insider. I don't know, but I'm assuming maybe early 2019. I would assume there. What do you think?
I think it's going to happen technically around March of 2019, because that's when we're starting to get to a point in time where decisions will have to be made on what to do, on how to go through certain things, when to do it, and how to establish organizations, coaches, players, identities. So March around there, in my opinion, is the best opportunity because you're stealing some limelight from the other league, possibly because it's in between their season, and B is right before WrestleMania in the WWE. So Vince will be probably trying to get more publicity because of the grandest event in wrestling as well.
Yeah, and I just really hope that the logos and team names are better than the than the AF's team logos. Just the logos just seem, for the AF, just seem kind of bland to me. I don't know, like I like the Memphis Express logo and their uniforms are pretty good, but just the rest of them kind of seem a little bland to me.
They seem a little bit of what was that old video game back in the day? They seem like a retro, an up-to-date retro version of the USFL team logos. That's what it screams. And plus, the city name, the teams of the cities, their names don't match the city itself.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, some of the colors are not what I think of when I think of the city. So, like, for Memphis, when I think of Memphis, I think of light blue. Because, obviously, the Titans, light blue. And even the Memphis Maniacs from the original 2001 XFL, they had light blue. Atlanta, I think of red. Because the Falcons. I don't know about that. Purple and gold it's interesting. I'd say the Legends is probably the least creative name and logo of the bunch there. The last question that we got is from that's quite a last name. Juan Cavarubius. I'm sorry if I really messed up that pronunciation. With all the talks and rumors on who is playing, I don't think anyone has asked the question of who is coaching, who is willing to leave the NFL or college to gamble on the XFL? And he says your thoughts, or our thoughts. We've kind of already answered that, but just it seems like specifically he says who is willing to leave the NFL or college to gamble on the XFL. So someone that's obviously employed right now, like so not the Rex Ryans or Jeff Fishers.
It's going to be kind of tough because usually you don't know any type of NFL guys that are currently employed that want to go in the XFL at this moment because we are a year and a half out of the XFL, and besides, NFL players, coaches, and personnel are contractually obligated to not share their opinion about future employment of certain other companies because that is actually an NFL rule. So we don't know who. They may tweet something, may like something, but I guarantee you, like this day and age, we see it all the time in politics, and we see it all the time on social media. People would dig up something 17 years ago and say, oh, look, he liked this. He must be this. There are going to be social media people are going to do that to dig and find what coaches have interest in the XFL. Yeah, in my opinion, it's too early to decide who. We did discuss it earlier, and right now, it's more of like as we get closer, we start seeing. It starts, the image starts getting clearer. But right now, you can choose from about 500 different type of individuals, and only 100 of them may be interested, and only 50 of those guys will actually make it into the XFL. So that question is a little bit early in the so-called realm of things of the XFL, but by the end of not this year, by the end of training camp next year, or mini camps in the NFL next year, we will start seeing players and coaches and personnel that will be interested in the XFL. Because as everyone should know, when the NFL has their training camps, the NFL cuts literally around 427 players to 500 players at the cut line. So there's a lot of good talented players that are not NFL quality, but be excellent quality in the XFL. Same with coaches. So it's way too early for that. We're still in off season and the whole football season away to finally see what can build from the XFL.
Yeah, there are also some decent players that are that are cut from the cut days from the NFL. Like as many Patriots fans do, every time the Patriots draft a quarterback late, they always say this guy's the next successor to Tom Brady. I was kind of on that bandwagon train with the guy they drafted this year, I think in the 5th round, Danny Edling from LSU. I researched a lot about him because I seriously thought this was going to be the guy. But he's not terrible, I'd say. And then he had one big highlight in the preseason against the Giants. He had an 86-yard rushing touchdown. So that was what I thought he was going to be on the roster, at least at the end of the preseason. They cut him on cut day. I was pretty shocked by that. They put him on the practice squad. I'm not really sure if he's still on the practice squad right now. Yeah, I'd hope that people like just decent players that are good prospects but not good enough to be in the NFL. Hopefully they can get a chance in the XFL, and then maybe potentially if they feel like they've done enough in the XFL, move on to the NFL.
Yeah, it's the creation of a league like the XFL. You're gonna have a plethora of talent to go after. The problem is you don't want to set your eyes on certain players that you know dang well will not be in the XFL because they will either get better in their position to be in the NFL, or they don't want to try the XFL out and may go up to Canada because Canada is a more established league. So we'll know a lot more as time gets there, but right now it's all speculation. The only thing that we know for certain is that there's going to be new rules. We have 8 teams, and we have a commissioner, a player. I forgot what's his name.
Wait, is it Whaley?
Director of player operations, and we have the vice president of the league. That's what we know right now. That's it. That's solid facts. All the rest are speculation and rumors. So yeah.
I guess just one last thing to talk about here briefly. So you've seen Josh Johnson has been outperforming expectations. He's the number one overall pick for the Alliance draft, drafted by the San Diego Fleet. He's now on the Washington Redskins because obviously just they've been scraping the bottom of the barrel with quarterbacks recently. So Josh Johnson, their starting quarterback, he's not doing that badly. Do you think Johnson could potentially turn down the AAF to stay in the NFL? Because does he feel like he could end up being a solid backup, or I'd say that's a long shot to be a starter. But could you think he feels like he could be a solid backup in the NFL, or do you think he'll go back to the AAF? I'm not really sure if they have a contract thing with you can be in the NFL and the AAF at the same time. I don't think so. But do you think it's possible that the Alliance's first overall pick in their draft could turn them down?
I think Josh Johnson thinks he's a reliable quarterback and a backup in the NFL. But the question is Washington was put in the tight position, and they needed to go find a quarterback that was ready to play, who played in the NFL recently. Does that mean Josh Johnson's going to be permanent in the NFL? Might be. Do I see him in the AAF back in San Diego? Yes. He's having a good little stint right here, but he is watching him against the Jaguars this past weekend and watching him last week as well. He is nowhere near as good as a good backup can be, and a lot of the NFL teams do not keep three quarterbacks anymore on the roster. I don't see him staying in the NFL for long, and I see him in the AAF starting in February.
All right, with that, I think we're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I'm just going to say one more thing. I just remembered Matt Barkley, though. I think he should give the XFL a shot. Had that one really good game against the Jets. Beat him 41-10, and never played again. Anyways, I think we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you for tuning in. As of right now, this will be available on YouTube and the Xtreme Insider website. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.